Weird is perfect vernacular. And there is something weird about these guys. Trump's hair is weird.
And 3 days ago, the nation found out what we've all known in Minnesota. These guys are just weird.
It's just they're weird. Mm-hmm. And no one wants to sit with the weird people.
I mean, on the other side, they're just weird.
There's something a little off with the other side. There's something a little weird with the Republican campaign.
Well, there it is. It's just going to stay weird. That's what they've decided. Weird is wrong. And I also think that the Democrats and their buddies in the mainstream media are bordering on bullying. Not kidding. Not kidding. We're going to get into it. It is the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka in for my vacationing friend Chris Plant. Happy to be here. Thrilled to be here on the 30th day of July. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh, have the Democrats sunk their teeth into the personal attack thing and want to say that Republicans are weird. And you know what that means. You know what that means. It means you're weird, too, because you like them. You're one of the people who likes those weirdos. That means you're weird. And we know weird is not good. I thought they were the party of everybody's an individual and everybody should be respected for their choices. Just that little opening montage there where Trump's hair is called weird. Well, he's called it weird himself. He made fun of himself at a rally, talked about his comb over and how beautiful it was and laughed at himself. But then who was the British person who said, "Oh, nobody wants to sit with them." What is this, high school? And the cafeteria lunch table? Oh, no, we're not going to sit with the AV club over there in the corner. It is so obvious who these people are. And the best thing to do is let them tell you who they are because they will completely expose themselves. Completely. And now they're going to make this all about the word weird. I expect creepy coming in again, too. But that also opens the door, doesn't it? It should open the door for discussions of maybe some terminology around other candidates that the GOP is facing. Yesterday, there was an exchange on Fox News with Neil Cavuto and Senator John Kennedy. And I love me some John Kennedy. He is one of the greatest soundbite machines ever. And he's also a guy who's really smart. And Senator Kennedy got into it with Neil Cavuto yesterday. And as I'm listening to Neil Cavuto chastise Kennedy for saying something about Kamala Harris, I'm thinking, wait a minute. The left is always calling us stuff. We go back to Hillary Clinton and the basket of deplorables. That half of us who support Trump or half of us who are on the conservative side of the aisle would fill up a basket of deplorables. And we've been called a lot of things. And Donald Trump has been called many things by the left. They pretty much call him Hitler every day, right? We're called fascists, even though they're the ones who are always telling us that we can only have one opinion. They're the ones who really display the fascist tendencies. So there's going to be some fun today because we do have the clips to share with you. I just love the fact that they're now making this about a personal attack, that you are so weird and weird is not good. I guess this is now the Mean Girls party. That's what this is going to be. This is the Mean Girls party. I noticed this yesterday on one of the fan pages of the flagship radio station of the Chris Plant Show on the Real Housewives of WMAL on Facebook. We're saying, they've called us a lot of things. They've called us, as I said, the deplorables, xenophobic, the dregs of society, domestic terrorists. That's right. Oh, that's right. If you're a person of faith, you're probably a domestic terrorist. Or if you happen to own an AR-15 style rifle. You're a domestic terrorist. You're a MAGA extremist. Joe Biden, when he was in the Dark Brandon character, which I think is probably going to come back again too, Joe Biden liked to use extreme MAGA and the MAGA extremists, enemies of the state. Obama called us bitter clingers, clinging to our guns and Bibles. Oh, we don't want that happening. And now weird. Weird is on top of it. Weird, weird, weird. Well, bring on the weird. As a matter of fact, you can't see it because it's not done yet. But I have designed a new red cap with white embroidery that says MAWA, Make America Weird Again. And it looks just like the Make America Great Again caps. But I want to wear mine proudly. Make America Weird Again. I hope the Trump campaign latches onto that and just says, this is great stuff. Keep calling us weird. Bring it on. What did weird bring us in the past? Weird brought us prosperity and security and safety. And, the world may have respected us a little more than they do now. It brought a certain level of peace all around the planet. So we'll get into that. There's more weird. I know we touched on the weird yesterday, but the weird has grown. It grew overnight. Weird stuff does grow overnight, and that's what happened. We have Joe Biden yesterday traveling to Texas and making a speech at the LBJ Library about what he wants to do, a new amendment to the Constitution to change the Supreme Court. There's not a snowball's chance in hell that this thing is going to pass, much less pass while he's president. But they're doing this. So why are they doing that? They're doing this for a campaign talking point, so the mainstream media can keep the canard alive of changing the Supreme Court. This is all about talking points. This is all about the campaign. That's what all of this is about. And it's all to help Kamala. Kamala Harris wants to pack the Supreme Court. She's been about packing the Supreme Court. She's talked about packing the Supreme Court.
So I will say that I am interested in having that conversation, and I'm open to this conversation about extending the number of people on the United States Supreme Court, about increasing the number of people in the United States Supreme Court.
Yeah, packing. That's what it's called, packing. It's a bad idea because you lost. Because you're not in power, you want to change the rules. It's a really bad idea. But they're going to keep bringing this up. They will keep bringing this up ad nauseum. A few other things going on today that we have to keep our eyes on. The United States State Department has told any American in Lebanon, please get the hell out now, which I think makes good sense. And maybe that signals the citizens from this country who happen to be in Lebanon for whatever reason that Israel's about to rain hell down upon the countryside after the Hezbollah terrorists who are based in Lebanon attacked and killed children in Israel. We'll keep you posted on that. But that notice came out yesterday, said if you're an American and you're in Lebanon, you should get out now. I think you probably would have taken that clue over the weekend when that attack happened. The worst and deadliest attack in Israel since the October 7th attack, and signaling that Hezbollah has been given a green light by Iran to ramp up the attacks on Israel. Because frankly, what is the U.S. doing? It appears nothing. Nothing. And the other thing, Iran's in the Olympics, aren't they? Russia was banned from the Olympics because of the war against Ukraine. Ukraine is there, and Ukraine is competing. We did manage to nose past Ukraine yesterday afternoon in the finals of the men's team gymnastic competition, which, yeah, I watched the Olympics all yesterday afternoon, totally engrossed in it. And congratulations to the American men bringing home a medal for the first time since 2008 in China. It was a bronze medal. I know everybody's obsessed with the golds. Yes, of course, we want to bring home the most gold medals. But look, our men's team in gymnastics, we haven't won a medal since 2008. And we won one yesterday. And we did it in remarkable style. And I started thinking, wait a minute. Iran's in the Olympics. And they're the world's biggest sponsor of terror. And Palestine's in the Olympics. They're not even a country. They're just an idea. Huh. But Russia's not in the Olympics. I know we have that group of athletes who are refugee athletes or whatever they are, or non-affiliated athletes, which is just kind of weird. You have this independent party of athletes out there. But Russia's banned. Iran is not. And there were a couple of instances yesterday at the Olympic Games that I think bear bringing to attention. Didn't involve the United States of America, but they did involve bad behavior by people like Iranians. There was a Tajikistani man who refused to shake hands in a judo match with his competitor who was from Israel. A Tajik man wouldn't shake hands with the guy he was fighting in the judo match. And karma came sweeping in, and that guy's shoulder was separated almost immediately, which is just a miracle and a little bit of a schadenfreude moment for me, and I enjoyed that greatly. And there's another incident with the Israeli soccer team that will have to play you the disgusting sound of the people in the stands at the Olympic Games in Paris. I don't have time to get that clip up here now, but I'm just kind of fascinated. We will also play you from last night's interview. Donald Trump was on with Laura Ingraham on Fox News, and it was a pretty interesting, wide-ranging interview with the former president. And he also talked about the Olympics and his reaction to the opening ceremonies. I mentioned it yesterday. Look, I'm a Catholic. I'm a person of faith. I'm not going to judge France. I can be a little offended by it, but I'm not going to order our athletes home. I'm not going to stand here and say, you shouldn't show off. I'll repeat what I said yesterday. If we had told Jesse Owens to come home from Germany because Adolf Hitler was there, Hitler would have won. We got to show France how to do it correctly. But Mr. Trump has some thoughts on what happened at the opening ceremonies at the Olympic Games. He also has an interesting story about Melania Trump's reaction to the shooting, the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. And there's some other news as it relates to the attempted assassination. There's another hearing today in the House of Representatives where the acting FBI director will testify. Maybe we'll get some more news. There certainly was more news and information divulged yesterday about the lack of action on credible threats that were exposed well ahead of Donald Trump walking out on that stage. He never should have been out there. There never should have been any shots going after Mr. Trump. You would have had Corey Comparatori would have still been alive. The two gentlemen who were wounded now, thank God they've been released from the hospital and hopefully should recover fully. None of those people would have been injured. And Corey would not have been dead, would not have been killed, had the people done their jobs. I think we're going to get more of that today, and there'll also be some more grandstanding, I guarantee you. So a lot to get to today. And even more than that, Veep Stakes update for the presumptive anointed nominee, Kamala Harris. A whole bunch of fun today. It's Mike Opelka. That's me. I'm in for Chris Plant. You can join us, too. 888-630-9625 is the number. 888-630-9625. It is the Chris Plant Show.
The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it. And unfortunately, there are people like that.
You're listening to The Chris Plant Show.
It is the Chris Plant Show. Welcome to it. Mike Opelka sitting in for my friend Chris Plant as he and Michael Piercy are vacationing, cruising, if you will. That's exactly what they're doing. They're on a cruise ship with a bunch of listeners as well. And so I am here until he returns back and docks back at the radio station. Jeff Wolf helping out Jasmine on the phones. You're welcome to join us at 888-630-9625. I'm just amazed at all of these splintering segments that the Democrats are creating with their parties. Their little parties for Kamala Harris. They have white dudes for Harris. They had a phone call for a bunch of white dudes for Kamala Harris. Yeah, they only see gender and race. Isn't that amazing? Mayor Pete was on the call and was talking to the faithful. And he kind of surprised me a little bit.
No matter how much you believe in your policies, so much of politics is just vibes. Having said that, the vibes right now are incredible.
So much of politics, it's not about policy. It's about the vibe, man. It's about the vibe. Never mind that your wallet is empty. Never mind it's costing you an average of $800 to $900 a month more under the Biden-Harris administration just because of their actions. It's the vibe, man. America's got. Are you not partaking in all of the edibles that are out there, man? It's the vibe. I can't imagine the people on the call. Well, I can't because we have Mayor Pete. He's one of the guys on the call. He shared with us some intimate details of himself and his other half.
My husband, Chastity, and I were home over the weekend and stopped by a canvas kickoff in Michigan at the...
Wait a minute. He said they were home over the weekend. Okay, I misunderstood that. I thought, we already know that.
Traverse City field office close to our house. I haven't seen that kind of energy for Democrats in Michigan since I was campaigning in the midterms for leaders like Gretchen Whitmer, and we all know how that turned out.
Yeah, we do. I know it's crazy. I can't believe this half hour is blown by so quickly. Do I have time to take a quick call? Victor's at Silver Spring, Maryland. Let's try and get him in here. Hello, Victor. Don't have much time, but what it is yours.
Okay. Trump went to a forum, and he's talking to Christians, and he says, I know you don't vote, but you got to vote for me this time. And he said, when I fix everything, you won't have to vote ever again. Well, the Democrats, of course, turned that around and said, see, he's a dictator. Hollywood's involved. The meathead is running this lie.
Well, I'll tell you what, Victor. Victor, I've got Donald Trump explaining it himself. You're exactly right. They're twisting his words, but Donald Trump will clarify. We've got the clip. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant right here on the Chris Plant Show.
This is the Chris Plant Show.
It is the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka, my name, is sitting in for my buddy Chris Plant as he is vacationing. He'll return next week. I guess we have to watch the Riparian Times to see what's going on in the shipping world and the sailing world to see when his boat will be returning. Now, I think he actually is returning Wednesday to this program. And in the interim, I will be here attempting to uphold the fine standards of the Chris Plant Show. And thank you for being here. We know you have choices in your listening life. So much going on today. As I mentioned, there will be a hearing with the acting FBI director, and we will supposedly get more information about the lack of information as it related to Donald Trump and the attempted assassination of Mr. Trump, what the agency did and did not do as it related to the standard protocol from Secret Service and what the FBI did or did not find out during their investigation. And by the way, the FBI is slated to visit with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago this Friday. Donald Trump is going to be interviewed on the shooting. It was one of the topics that came up yesterday evening in the interview with Laura Ingraham and Mr. Trump. Let me just give you a little flavor of that.
If you took a poll of the FBI, I bet I get 95%, but not at the top level, not at the people, the
Why do
political
people not trust the upper echelon of the FBI at this point?
Well, they've had a bad period of time. I mean, they raided Mar-a-Lago. That's not so good. And I guess we bring a suit. You know, we won that whole case, and we won it the right way. We won it because we won it. We won it in court. It was a big thing. Hardly got any publicity. All they did is talk about the documents. I was allowed the Presidential Records Act, but we won the case, and the press hardly reports it. Now, with Biden, he really was convicted of that case. He was let go of that case. And by the way, you're talking about many more, and he didn't have Presidential Records Act. Just one thing, Laura. They said he was incompetent, and therefore he can't stand trial, and yet he would have been allowed to be president. Think of that. So he sort of semi-won it. Of course, you don't want to have that kind of a victory. You win because you're incompetent.
Yeah, Donald Trump was pretty interesting last night and said some very interesting things to say, a little love for the FBI, and was telling the shooting story and gave the FBI a little bit of some props, I guess we would say.
Look, I can tell you this. Once the bullets started coming at me, and I got very lucky, I have to attribute it to God, because if I didn't turn to the right, and there was no reason to turn to the right except I dropped a big sign on what a great job I'm doing on immigration, right? So the sign's coming down, and I go like this, and it went phew. If I didn't, I wouldn't be talking to you.
You shouldn't have been
right
on
now.
that stage. You shouldn't have been allowed to get on that stage.
But I just want to say one thing about Secret Service. They were very brave, because they were coming, bullets were flying over me, because I went down, bullets were flying, and they were on top of me. I had a lot of people on top of me, a lot of very big, strong people on top of me, I want to tell you. And they were very brave. I have to say that. Okay, with that being said, should have been somebody on the roof. There should have been communication with the local police, which there wasn't, so that's a bad thing. And they were seeing this guy, who was a very disturbed person, and they were seeing him around. I mean, it's like, how about the people, the Trump fans, the Trumpsters, the woman in the red shirt that was screaming, he's got a gun, that guy's got a gun.
That's very, very indicative of who Donald Trump is, giving props to the people who were there, who were shouting to the law enforcement and all the other folks around there for security, going, hey, there's a guy on the roof with a gun. Are you guys going to do anything? Donald Trump telling the story last night with Laura Ingraham, part one of a pretty in-depth interview. I thought it was pretty fascinating. And she did mention that he's going to be giving the victim interview to the FBI this Friday at Mar-a-Lago. And I have questions about that. And so do some of you. In fact, Rick in South Carolina is on the phone. Rick, you have a thought? You're concerned about Donald Trump sitting down with the FBI this Friday?
Yes. Good morning, sir. What possible reason could the FBI have for interviewing the person shot at, other than here's another perjury trap? Why would he trust them? I mean, 95% confidence, that's great. What about the other 5%?
Well, I do think Donald Trump has some of the most incredible lawyers representing him, even though the left managed to intimidate a lot of top-level lawyers in the country when he was trying to hire attorneys to help him in the various cases coming at him in the lawfare attempts. And so I'm sure he's probably going to have counsel with him as the interview process is happening, and I'm certain it's going to be videotaped. We know that the government has a tendency to tape things even though they don't release them to us, but I would bet that Donald Trump and his team would also be recording whatever proceedings are going on at Mar-a-Lago. Interesting. It is a question you should ask, and I'm sure the Trump team is asking, should we do this interview? Is there a perjury trap, as you say? I don't think he has anything to worry about, but that's me.
Or let them do their investigation, get it to the end, and if there's any holes, then you talk to them. I mean, he was the one that was shot at. I mean, what's he going to tell them? Yeah, I got.
Well,
hit
that's
in the
true. It's true. Although there are people on the left who think that Donald Trump set the whole thing up, that he orchestrated it, that he wanted to be shot in the ear. Yeah, it's crazy. There was a great piece last Friday in the New York Times by author Gerald Posner and another attorney. They co-wrote an op-ed about the FBI. Mark Zaid, I think is his name. They wrote an op-ed about the FBI investigation into this, and they were calling for a Warren Commission or a 9/11 Commission type nonpartisan investigation into the shooting. And I wonder if that's going to happen, because it does seem like it warrants it, as long as we don't have Benny Thompson involved. You know, he was one of the guys behind the January 6th charade. And if they're going to put nonpartisan individuals on it, maybe take it out of the House to investigate it, I'd be okay with that. But, you know, generally, the FBI does exactly what you're saying. They wait until they're almost done with the whole process, Rick. You wait until the very end, and then you interview the last person or the highest up on the food chain. And that would be Donald Trump. So perhaps this indicates that the FBI is nearing the end of their investigation into what happened. And, you know, a little bit of paranoia is a healthy thing, but I just don't want us to get overly paranoid in these situations. I'd like to get the answers, and I'm sure you would too. I think that's a good idea, but we'll see. We will see. Good alert. Good question to raise your hand and go, hold on a second here. Are you sure we want to do that? Yeah, I think we do. If anything happens during that hearing today, which is going on during the show, we'll give you updates on it. A lot of that will be posturing. As I mentioned, the last time the House had a hearing, we had two hearings, one with the former head of the Secret Service, Cheadle. She's no longer there. And the second one was with FBI Director Gray. And in both of those cases, the Democrats used each of their 5-minute time pretty much to grandstand about stuff like gun control or to insult Donald Trump. And I suspect we might see some of that again today. That might happen today, but we'll keep an eye on it. Just in case you thought that the communism was not popular in America. This is kind of a weird sidebar. I know I just made an unsignaled left turn. But over the weekend, and I just saw this late yesterday, over the weekend, there was a march in the city of Philadelphia, in the streets of Philadelphia, supporting communism. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people in the streets of Philadelphia marched carrying red flags. It looks like the flags of China. They're red flags with a sickle and hammer on them, so maybe not a Chinese flag. And they're carrying a banner across the front, Revolutionary Communists of America. And they're marching on the streets of Philadelphia, and they are chanting. And it's what they're chanting that really made my ears prick up just a little bit. And I wanted to share it with you here. You got to listen closely to this one. So they're chanting Class War 2024, fight the rich and feed the poor. And they're walking up and down the streets of Philadelphia. And now I'm looking at the crowd. It looks like predominantly white males. There are a few females in there, but it is predominantly white males. And probably 8 out of 10 are males. And they're all carrying the red flag with the sickle and hammer. And I don't think any of them, not one of them has missed a meal. Not in some time. And some of them appear to have been at the buffet. Some of them appear to be at the main trough at the Golden Corral. But Class War 2024, fight the rich and feed the poor. I wonder if any nation hands out more food not communist nation, any capitalist nation hands out more food than this nation does. I wonder. Just throwing that out there. And I'm also saying that in a couple of weeks, when the Democrats assemble in Chicago, I would not be surprised to see these folks and their flags marching in the streets. It would not shock me at all to see the Communist Party, the Revolutionary Communist Party of America marching in the streets. And why would they be there? Well, just maybe the standard bearer of the Democrat Party could identify with them. Maybe Kamala Harris has some sort of kindred spirit with these people. I mean, take her at her own words.
And yeah, I am a radical. I do believe that we need to get radical about what we are doing and take it seriously.
Right. So she believes we do need to get radical about what we're doing and take it seriously. Yeah, it's not just about calling people weird. She considers herself to be a radical. She flat out admits it. She's a radical and wants us to take it seriously. They believe we need to be radical. And yet, what is she doing? Her campaign is separating people by gender and race, holding events just the way we saw some of those woke universities hold events based on gender and race, so that you would have your graduation ceremony. You wouldn't have it with all the people you went to school with. No, that would reflect too much like the real world. No, they're going to break it down into race and gender. I wonder if we're going to have voting days for men and then voting days for women. And why not voting days for specific people of color? That's kind of where they're going, isn't it? They're not bringing us together. They are separating us. And it's a dangerous, dangerous idea. All right, I'm stepping aside for a second. When we come back, I have a couple of strange stories we have to get to, including a little update on a tennis tournament happening here in the flagship city of the Chris Plant Show in Washington, D.C. A little personal update on a family member who happens to be playing tennis at the big city open in D.C. It's Mike Opelka and Chris Plant on the Chris Plant Show.
There's only one Chris Plant, The Chris Plant Show.
It is the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka sitting in for my friend Chris Plant. Man, oh man, do we have a lot to get to today. Yes, there's more from the interview, a very telling interview with Donald Trump and Laura Ingraham last night. He talked a lot about his wife's reaction to the assassination attempt. He talked about J.D. Vance. He talks about Kamala Harris. Will he debate her? Well, you're going to have to stick around and find out. There is also another little bit that we need to discuss when it comes to the focus on weird, that the Democrats have decided that's going to be their talking point against the Republicans. And I want to get to Neil Cavuto yesterday with Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana. Senator John Kennedy, a guy I think is just absolutely spot on in most of his breakdowns of looking at the difference between the left and the right and bringing in country clarity, if you will. He is a conservative, Oxford-educated guy, but he manages to spin a phrase like nobody else. And last night he was on with Neil Cavuto, and he referenced the vice president as a ding-dong. And Cavuto got mad and told him so. But here's the moment it happened, in case you
Well, the polls that I have seen, the most recent polls, you can't just look at the top lines, Neil. You've got to look at the crosstabs. And if you look at the crosstabs and really drill down and see what people think, let me say it again. The polling that I've seen shows that many Americans think that the vice president is not a serious person. As I said, that she's a bit of a ding-dong. And number two, that she is a member of the loon wing of the Democratic Party. She's a San Francisco Democrat. She's just like Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, except without the bartending experience.
Boom. That's pretty good clarity, if you ask me. She's just like Alexandria, occasionally coherent without the bartending experience. Kavuta didn't like that Senator Kennedy used the term ding-dong and called him out for it. And Senator Kennedy doesn't back down. That's what I like about him. He politely holds his ground. Maybe we'll get to the end of that because Kavuta kind of basically had to say, good day to you, sir. Very interesting indeed. I want to grab a couple of calls before we get out of here this hour. Dan is in Frederick, Maryland. Hello, Dan. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show. What's on your mind?
Hi, how you doing? Love your show. I just want to say there's 51 intelligence officials who will do whatever it takes to keep Trump out of the White House. I mean, ever since Crossfire Hurricane, there's nothing that they will do to stop them. And I believe that crooks had help.
That's a really good point. And I know KT McFarland likes to always say that those credentials need to be revoked, and they do. And I'm sure a President Trump would revoke those credentials. We also need to remember over the weekend.
They tried to kill him.
Yeah, they did. Apparently, somebody did. We don't know, Dan. We can't throw that shade on him yet. But Dan, we also should be outraged that over the weekend, the Department of Justice settled a suit with Lisa Page and Strzok. Page and Strzok, the two people, got $2 million in a settlement with the DOJ, saying they were wrongfully terminated. Now that's a crime. That is a big crime. But thank you, Dan. Let's try and grab Bill in Savannah, Georgia. Bill's got a real interesting and hot topic here. Hello, Bill. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure to be on with you. Wanted to emphasize there's a story here locally that we're involved with of the firefighter hero that was killed. All the pictures
Corey
that we're
Corey
seeing of him-
Comparatore? Yes.
Yes, sir. All the pictures that we were seeing of him, he was wearing 9-line apparel shirts, and that 9-line, the apparel is made here in Savannah. Two Army veterans started that company here about 10 years ago, and they started making T-shirts for the family.
Okay, I'm almost out of time. Where do we go? Where do we go to see this?
You can go to 9-line. Just look up 9-line apparel, and they're giving all the proceeds from those T-shirts that they're making for him, whole armor of God, to the family.
That's a beautiful story. We'll repeat the info later. It's Opelka in for Plant.